Hello and welcome to the Pop Off PC Mag's video game show. I'm Jordan Miner. Zach, you're here.
Still here.
Still here. Well, there it is. Okay, we shot another episode today, so that's ruined. Matt Buzzy, you're new.
I am new. I appeared in a brief cameo in the last video for eagle-eyed viewers out there.
That's true.
We've changed topics and we've changed people, and now we're here.
Did we change hats? Were your hat backwards?
This is backwards. I always had this on.
You should turn it around.
Just to make sure the audience at home can tell the difference.
You should turn it around. We have the processing power to render the full detail of your hat.
Why do you not like the backward cap?
I don't know.
You're not a fan.
I'm just trying to.
Who doesn't like it?
I'm just talking.
At the end of the day, we're just yapping.
Talking. And what we're talking about is hardware.
Yes.
Something familiar to two of you boys on the hardware team at PCMag.com. A lot of hardware is already out. It exists. We know it exists. But what is so fun about this industry is the future.
Yes.
What's going to happen next?
Prognostication, speculation.
What's it going to be about? And there's a lot of hardware rumors floating around for video game consoles that we wanted to just sort of talk off our butts about.
Yes.
Probably the one that has the most concrete proof that's real and like numbers attached is this PlayStation 5 Pro.
Yes.
So there's, leaks came out about what some of the specs of it might be. People are thinking maybe this holiday for it.
That's the
Let's talk about
fall. I've seen some September floated around.
Yes, I've seen September to November.
Yes, everything we're saying, grain of salt, it's rumors, it's speculation.
Yeah.
This one, as you said, does seem a little more concrete in where people sort of source this information. But again, nothing's promised here. But more powerful PS5, do we need one? Should we have one?
Did we need
Is it a good
one
time for one?
Did we need one last time? They still did it.
I feel like the
Right.
PS5, in some ways, the PS5 feels like PS4 Pro Pro or something. I don't feel like we've seen the full potential of the base PS5.
Which is, according to other rumors, what some developers think.
Yeah.
Internally or saying to Sony, like, we really haven't gotten the full power out of the PS5 yet. Why are we moving on to a Pro?
The problems of this industry are not lack of power
Yes.
in a lot of instances.
Yeah, I think the PS4 Pro, like claiming it was doing 4K, like the PS5 really can't still do 4K that well, right?
Yeah.
Like it has this. We'll get into this. It's probably gonna be a big focus because the graphics mode versus the performance mode is one of the things like that kind of justifies the existence of a PS5 Pro. But yeah, the PS4 Pro couldn't really do 4K that well. The PS5 Pro, you almost always have to lower to 30 frames, right? So it's one of those things. There's this trade-off. So the PS4 Pro, like some people, the real enthusiasts wanted it. The 5 Pro, maybe it can undo this sort of graphics mode, performance mode paradigm, but I don't even know if it will.
Because I feel like every time we have this, even with every console generation, and we talked about this a bit, we think, this will be the time with this more power that, finally the devs will prioritize just frame rate. They'll keep the graphics kind of the same-ish, but they'll really get performance up there. But I feel like every time they just push on graphics.
Yeah, because now even this PS5 Pro rumor is being attached to like 8K. There's no 8K content. There's no 8K games.
Yeah.
That's not going to be plausible. Be happy with where we're at for like a second. Either get the existing PS5 to run more smoothly, or this PS5 Pro better be able to do 4K 60 frames.
Yeah.
And if it can't, I don't really know what we're doing.
Having discipline, being satisfied with where you're at to a degree, that's never gonna work. Never gonna fly. Never gonna fly. We gotta see John Kratos, every pixel of that man.
Every pore of that man.
But speaking of John Kratos, people talk about how it might come out this holiday, but Sony has already come out and said that they don't have like a tentpole game for this holiday too. So
it's
just
next
push,
fiscal year or something.
Just pushing units to push more units, or really because they think this is like necessary. But like I think other than some games that have this performance or graphics mode thing, most of the games run well on PS5. Things look good.
Both from the PS4 games.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think it could cook a little bit more, or just not do a 5 Pro at all until the PS6. There's a very niche audience.
There's a
there,
hardware issue going on at Sony. Sony keeps putting out hardware for its PS5, but it doesn't do anything. They've barely supported the VR headset since it launched.
Yeah, they came out and said that they're done.
Yeah,
they made a second one that said, never mind.
The PlayStation Portal is a thing, but it's not quite a handheld. It's just a streaming device. It's something that you could do on other handhelds, and there's been 6 handhelds that have come out in the last 6 months that you can choose from and play your PlayStation remotely.
Yeah,
it's really struggle to understand why I need a PlayStation 5.
It feels like they're soaking you.
It does. And there are
just redesigned the PlayStation 5.
Right, they just did the...
They just did it.
Just redesigned it. Don't yell at me. But really, I know there's a subset of the people out there watching and enthusiasts, and I review computers, I review high-end gaming hardware, PCs, gaming laptops, desktops. I built my own PC. I understand the value of high performance parts, but the PS5 Pro, the consoles are supposed to be inexpensive, right? First of all, like a sort of affordable, approachable way to get a decently powerful PC-like thing in your living room at your TV. And it's cool for that upper slice of enthusiasts, who are the ones that are probably sitting there going, we need the PS5 Pro. We got to push the ray tracing. We got to push the higher frame rates. We got all that. I get it. But that is a pretty niche segment of the market who's going to do buy a machine that's already more expensive than a pretty expensive PS5.
Yeah, it's already big and ugly.
Towards the arguable, Sony said itself, we're in the latter half of its lifespan. Like, we're getting towards the end of the PS5's lifespan. So you're going to get a few years out of this, like, not quite leap up in generation. We don't really know what it's theoretically capable of. RDNA 3, it's the rumor it's going to have a better
I have some numbers
GPU.
here. I have some numbers here from these leaks. I've got 28% memory increase, 10% CPU speed increase, 45% GPU increase,
which is
to 33.5 teraflops.
Yeah, those teraflops, baby.
It sounds like the CPU is a nominal improvement. It sounds like the real focus is on the GPU, supposedly. But then you buy that and then you're going to buy the PS6 in another year or two? Like, this is going to be an expensive console.
I think the thing that's exciting, though, that's kind of not even just PS5, but even potentially even this Switch 2, is this push towards like DLSS type things, type AI upscaling. And the rumored name for this one is the PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, or PISSR for short. I love that for them. Love that for them. But I think that's cool technology. And I think that's smart in that it lets them do stuff that's impressive with a kind of workaround thing, without just having to throw more raw power at things.
The PlayStation 5 already supports FSR.
Yeah.
And it's weird that like Apple also has their own DLSS sort of upscaling.
Everyone's trying their own little secret sauce. NVIDIA's obviously DLSS is the go-to one. Supposedly the new Switch.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Use that, but I think it has more of a use case there on the low end when you want to push good-looking settings at and you don't have to have it at a high resolution. The DLSS is kind of bridge that gap. But if you're going to do an increasingly expensive box, like on the PC side, like the better PC I build, the less I need to turn DLSS on.
Right.
So like, it's a weird mix, and I know there's people going to buy it because they'll buy the new version of anything, the hardware enthusiasts. But I just more power to you. Like literally, more
teraflops to you.
It's hard to justify a little bit, right? It feels like an odd jump in between, much like the PS4 Pro did. At the same time, though, as we mentioned, this whole graphics mode, performance mode thing, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it'd be nice if it just ran in the graphics mode or similar at 60 frames, and it can't.
Yeah, you have to pick.
So I do get the need for it. It's just like, can we just do the PS6 at this point? Then, what is it?
I do think that as to play devil's advocate, I do feel like the DLSS stuff is getting better, and so like you almost don't notice.
Yeah, that's the ideal, right?
The ideal outcome is that you can't even tell the difference between what a native 4K image and what an upscaled 4K image looks like. Yeah. And I would wager a guess that most people wouldn't be able to tell the difference
unless you're playing Dragon's Dogma 2, which is
CPU limited. So I'm thinking of the PlayStation 5 Pro and what that may look like, and I don't even see a significant performance buff for a game like Dragon's Dogma.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Obviously, the specs aren't concrete. I'm sure it will be better and perform better, but
to me, it's just about like what's the game lineup. If they also have a big game, so whatever. And I'm thinking
do what?
Like the rumors are that GTA 6 might get delayed to 2026. If that game gets delayed out of 2025, like the economy will collapse. There's so many people like pinning their hopes on that to like save the industry.
The whole existence of the PS5 Pro might be to run that game better. I don't know.
Right.
Moving on for a little bit. Talking about Switch 2, that's been kind of one of the big rumors for whatever this next Nintendo console is, that it would use NVIDIA DLSS to, compete better with PS5, Xbox Series, despite maybe only being PS4 level in performance as a handheld device. Like you were saying, I think that's a cooler use case to kind of uplift this.
Lower end hardware.
That's the whole Nintendo philosophy is. I think they called it like lateral thinking of withered technology.
Whoa, what a phrase!
I'm sure that sounds great in Japanese. This sort of sideways approach of take these old 70s calculators and now it's a Game Boy in 1990. The Switch. I love the Switch. I think it's like a GOAT console. But it's time to move on. I think we're there.
Everyone knows it's struggling a little bit.
Yeah. Just gotta keep the same format, which I think.
Yeah, so I was kind of joking around with Zach before. It's Nintendo, right? So you can never quite. There's like a 20% chance that they're going to zag. Yeah. Like I feel because they rarely do.
We want them to zig.
We want them to zig. Everyone's kind of like the Switch is such a great idea and concept and execution. Just do that again with a little more horsepower. It's been out for years now. Yeah. Games are struggling. If it has DLSS capability, which is, the rumor and a new chip, great. It'll run things better. It opens up a new world of performance and open world and seamlessness. All good for the Switch. But you can't quite bet against the chance that Nintendo's going to do something weird with the physical format or the design, because you look at their history, like it's very infrequent, especially more modern console releases, that they don't do the Xbox Sony thing of just like, this is a spec bump. Like
the fact that we can't even count on it to be called a Switch 2, which is like the best name.
The shorthand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
now there's 2 screens on your on your Game Boy. Like, you never know.
It's funny because I actually think with the Switch, they almost could have taken more. I think the whole kind of modular nature of it really could have allowed them to sort of have it both ways of like, we could probably like a weird controller that will like slot onto the sides of it or whatever, but also have normal ones. Like, I think they could have taken more advantage of doing some weird stuff that didn't have to compromise the sort of core playability of the console itself.
Yeah, we got Labo.
Yes.
And a couple other like gimmick.
So we just need more cardboard.
Yeah, and then you're done with it, and then it returns to the earth. It doesn't sit in a landfill for a billion years. It goes back to God.
You're right though, because it was really just actual Joy-Con regular controllers.
But I'm interested in the form factor. I mean, the Switch is a pretty small console. It's the smallest out of all of the handhelds, right?
Which is still pretty big.
And I'll tell you,
it's still a pretty big device.
It is still pretty big, but when you go from holding a Steam Deck to a Switch, like it feels like non-derogatory, feels like a toy. You're like, this is so much lighter and thinner. It's great.
The rumor is that the Switch 2 screen is going to be 8 inches, which is 2 inches bigger than the
8 inches of Venom.
And non-OLED also.
Non-OLED.
Right? Is that the report?
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that. I think the PlayStation Portal is an 8-inch device. So that would be it's
a big screen.
That would be what the Switch 2 would be aiming for, just with an LCD screen, not an OLED.
The other thing that we didn't really mention is that we all thought this would be out either now or soon.
Yeah,
right?
People are pointing towards early 2025 now.
Yeah.
Which
I think makes sense.
Yeah. Was not the original expectation. We thought we'd be like, all right, finally the year of the Switch. Yeah, but then
and it feels like that looking at the Nintendo lineup for 2024, it definitely feels like a console that is being sent.
So, they got Paper Mario putting in the grave.
Yeah. The more things you pitch,
Luigi's Mansion.
The more things you put towards next year, the better and more exciting that launches. Also, in a weird way, the kind of like dearth of games the second half of this year for it is like building excitement for the new console. It's like, we haven't had anything, and and then the console's going to launch, and all these games are going to come out. Like it's a little bit of intentional scarcity on the game releases,
right? Which Nintendo is not an stranger to.
Yeah, they love it.
To me, it just needs to have backwards compatibility. It needs to. It needs to. It needs. They've had people now build these massive digital libraries of like fantastic games, new and old. It's got to be able to bring all that stuff over. Even if it can't, it'd be great if it could get kind of like a native boost from the hardware. But even if it can't, even if it just runs them at a Switch level, it needs to. If it doesn't, the government needs to intervene. Yeah.
Actually, a regulatory, like a on the grade of making Apple use the same chargers as everybody else, and being able to repair your devices. Like, we should have access to our library on new devices. Like, truly.
Yeah, they got it all pretty standardized now. So
all the more so if it's an actual Switch 2 or
exactly.
That is kind of the question mark. Like, they can maybe get away with it more. It's like, well, this is a whole new thing.
No, they can't get away with it. They shouldn't get away with it.
Narratively speaking, they can get away with it more.
The Switch has like a decent shot.
Dramaturgically.
The Switch has a decent shot at being like the best-selling console ever. Yeah. It's already like top 3 now. Yeah. So like to leave all those people so in the lurch would be like a horrible you can leave Wii U people behind. Sell those games again. No one bought it. Whatever. Also use discs. That transition makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But
recognize the context that the Switch exists in and support those users.
Isn't it crazy how that is also a possibility? Like leaving 100+ million fans in the lurch.
Yeah.
That's such a Nintendo thing to do. You can't even fully wave it away.
You can't.
Yeah. What games do you think coming out? I think if Metroid Prime 4.
Metroid Prime 4.
It has to be, right? If it doesn't, I don't think it's real. Like, if it's not now, if it's not then when.
There was a rumor that it would be aiming for the end of this year.
Sure.
But if the console it doesn't make sense in my mind for it to come out months before.
I couldn't see it. Although, if it's mostly built though, then it won't really take advantage of the new hardware at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
but what if it just boosts it up?
Does make it run better inherently?
Yeah.
It might.
Metroid remastered on Switch looks great.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and cross-platform release is very possible. Like who knows how long they're gonna keep the base Switch
a few
around.
of those.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I imagine Pokemon Legends.
Yeah, that's already out on
Legends.
Switch.
No, the new one.
The new one, yeah, but that'll be on old Switch as well.
That's why I imagine it'll be a cross-platform because it's slated for 2025. I assume it's coming for Switch too, but I have no doubt it'll also come out for the first one.
Yeah. Given how recent Zelda was, probably no Zelda launch title this time around.
Or one of the rumored games is an improved Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, like a boost on the old ones. Yeah, because the rumors they were showing off that with like 4K 60 and also that Matrix Unreal demo.
And that would almost be 10 years since the launch, right?
8. It was 2017.
Oh, I thought it was 2016, but still, that's like Mario Kart 8 Wii U. That's
the whole lifespan of that game.
Still there. Wild. And maybe a 3D Mario?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, we haven't had one of those
in a
minute, right?
Yeah.
A 3D Donkey Kong.
Let's not get crazy.
No, let's get nuts. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Coconuts.
Bananas. Let's go bananas. I think you meant.
Funky's Treasure Wrap. Okay, so yeah, that's
a new Xenoblade.
Moving on.
X remake.
Actually,
put out X again.
yes,
That'd be great.
That would be
That's
great.
still one of the top
Just
2.
put that out this year. That would be a great, considering this year is just full of like games that came out 20 years ago remade. Xenoblade X would be a perfect release for this year.
Another perfect release for this Switch 2, to also get us into our next segment here, are some Xbox games. Famous third-party publisher Xbox.
Indeed. Famous software maker.
So we were talking last time about Grounded and Pentiment and all their multi-plat stuff. That will keep happening. You heard it here first.
Yeah,
Those will not be the last game.
It's a soft little launch. We're just doing the collection.
Yeah, we're just dipping our toe.
I'm sure that will be the end of it.
I don't know why Phil Spencer sounds like Paul Lind now, but they say they'll make new hardware. So
it sound like to at least one more Xbox after this one, right?
Or even a handheld.
So I was gonna say, there aren't really as many sort of concrete rumors about new Xbox hardware as Switch and PlayStation, but there's still some, people saying things, people just talking.
They just yapping on
Xbox on every screen.
One Xbox. The one
Xbox. Not to be confused with that.
But you just mentioned, I think handheld, that's been kind of one of the stronger rumors that they would put out something to kind of be in the Steam Deck handheld PC category.
Which makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah.
I guess so.
A little Game Pass device for your troubles.
But isn't every handheld a Game Pass?
Yes, but then
Windows
Microsoft can sell you one directly when it's meant, because the Steam Deck has Game Pass actual trouble.
No, because I'm talking about the Windows powered the
alternatives.
Ally,
I think those are. It's hard to get a gauge on how popular those are.
Yeah.
I don't know how widespread they are. All pretty good, but I don't know how widespread they've sold. I think the Steam Deck of any of those is the most adopted.
Yeah. Right, and that's probably still like single digit millions.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's hard. Yeah. So if that thing doesn't run Game Pass, so if Microsoft can officially be like, this is the Xbox extension that's mobile and it works super
you
well.
Think that just because it has the Xbox name on it, you think that it'd be?
That's mainstream people will understand what that means immediately.
I guess
in a way
so.
that Asus ROG out. Like, what?
Like
get out of my house.
Able to push like Game Pass very upfront. It works super well. It's very compatible. You can either stream games or play a lot of games locally. So this thing is very hypothetical. But there was a report, I think even might have been today, that was some people
breaking news
are obsessed with the idea of it, right?
I
saw it was some people love the idea of an Xbox handheld internally. So
is there still room to put out one of these that has a good interface for Windows? I feel like that's been the because I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's been one of the biggest flaws with these Windows handheld PCs, that the interface just doesn't work well.
The Asus ROG Ally and the Lenovo Go had their own interface to deal with games, but it was still really clunky.
It's a little finicky. I think Asus's is pretty good as far as that thing's concerned.
I think the Steam OS though is really
it's definitely
the way to go.
So that's what I'm saying. Is there room for Microsoft to kind of make their own more bespoke sort of
wrapper
on Windows?
I think that's why the Xbox branding has
totally
more power there, because Windows, they're a software company, right? Ideally, not that they've always made good Xbox dashboards, but ideally they can make a seamless wrapper and sort of interface. Because the Steam Deck, even as good as I think the Asus ROG Allies is for kind of putting all your games into one menu and letting you change the settings and some pop-ups without having to navigate a desktop with a mouse or with the touchscreen. I think something that performed like the Steam Deck's OS for that purpose would be way more
totally.
And I don't hate the PC Game Pass interface. I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. And I think that if the best case scenario would be for them to crib the Steam Deck OS into their own thing.
Cool.
All right, so we'll look out for that. Or whatever Xbox does, we're
we'll be there.
We're locked in.
We're
hopefully some games come along with that.
So hard, there will be more hardware in the future. We'll review it all. We'll buy it all. We'll clutter up our houses with it. We'll
that's our promise to you.
We'll throw it out once it becomes obsolete in 2 weeks. So Zach, Matt, Buzzy,
that's me.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.